Hi friends, thanks so much for being here. In this video, we'll be going back to Prythian for another round of A Court of Books. I'm so excited to be playing A Court of Books again. It's been a while. My last video on this was for my September TBR. I took a little break, now I'm back, and this will be A Court of Books, the TBR game for the month of December. And of course, it's all based on A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. If you somehow missed the video in which I explain what A Court of Books is and how you play it, I will leave that video up in the info cards. There's also a link in my description to all the cards and the prompts, so in case you want to play along, you can download them. For the board itself, you can just pause the screen or take a screenshot and then roll your own dice, or just roll with me. It's the end of the year, the holidays are coming, and I'm gonna do another 4 rolls, so 4 prompts, 4 books. But before we go back to Prythian, I want to say thank you to my patrons. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And if you feel like it's something for you, you can click on the link in my description to check it out. Now let's find out what kind of books I'm going to read in the month of December. The last time that we played this was in September, I believe, and I was in the Night Court, this spot. The first roll for my December TBR. It's a 5. Doesn't matter which route I take because I'm gonna end up in the day court anyway. So let's go this way. This is the day court. Let's take the first cards. And it is Dressed to a T. White and gold on the cover. Luckily, this isn't a really hard one, white and gold on the cover. I got a few books that have white and gold on the cover, and there is one that I have been meaning to read for a while, and that is this one, The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. This is actually a special edition that I got in the adult Fairy Loot book box. I never film any videos on those because they're just a box with a book, but I do make reels about them and you can find those on my Instagram. And this was from a while ago. I think it was actually their first. I think this was their first adult book box pick. And I just love how the cover looks. It's so pretty, and the sprayed edges. I heard some mixed things about the Atlas 6. Some say it's the new fantasy book, the new fantasy series. Others say it's just so-so. I want to see for myself. It's about 6 extraordinary magicians, a secret society, but there are only 5 places in this secret society. So they have to compete with each other, and each character has different powers, magical powers, and it's in London, which is one of my favorite settings when it comes to fantasy books. So I feel like this is going to be a good read. If you've already read this book, let me know, what did you think? So that is a book pick number 1. Roll a number 2. It's a 2. So I can go to the Dawn Court or back to the Night Court or even stay in the Day Court. Choices, choices. Let's go back to the Night Court. That is this pal. Nyx, a debut novel. Oh, that's going to be a hard one. Second roll, second prompt. So this one is Nyx, a debut novel. I think if you've read like the entire A Court of Thorns and Roses, you know who Nyx is. But in case you don't, and if you haven't read every book in the series yet, this is a spoiler. Feyre and Rhysand have a son and he is called Nyx. So that's why this prompt is a debut novel. And for this one, I actually chose a book that I've already read, but I still have to finish this trilogy. And it's been a long time since I've read the first book, so I need to pick it up again. It's Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. I absolutely adored the first book. I thought it was so good. I also enjoyed the second book from what I remember, Blood and Honey. And then for the third book, somehow I felt like nobody was that excited anymore about this trilogy, but I kind of still am. But somehow I just left the third book on my shelf. I never picked it up, but I do really still want to read it. So this was her debut novel, and that's why I'm picking this book for that prompt. This is another fantasy book. I think it is young adult fantasy. It has two main characters, Lou and Reed. Lou is a witch who fled her coven and she is being hunted because all witches are feared. And Reed is someone who you could call a witch hunter, sworn to the church. So it also has these kind of medieval vibes. But then something goes wrong, something happens, and they are forced to marry. Yeah, it sounds like the usual romance book, but it isn't. And I just remember that I really enjoyed this book, so I'm looking forward to reading it again. Roll number 3. Another 5. Let's go this way. So this is part of the Winter Court. So we take one from the Winter Court pile, Winnowing, a book with a dual timeline. So the third prompt comes from the Winter Court. Winnowing is described a lot in the court books, and it's basically apparating. So going from one place to the other in like a split second. And that's why it's a book with a dual timeline. And I actually found the perfect book that I still need to read because I'm a Once Upon a Book Club VIP, very important page turner, and I've gotten a little bit behind. And one that I still need to read is The Many Daughters of Afong Moy by Jamie Ford. And guess what? It's about different characters in different timelines. It's also a really pretty edition. I believe the main character is Dorothy Moy, and she has dissociative episodes and mental health struggles. And then her 5-year-old daughter exhibits similar behavior and begins remembering things from the lives of their ancestors. Through an experimental treatment designed to mitigate inherited trauma, Dorothy intimately connects with past generations of women in her family. And one of them is Afong Moy, the first Chinese woman to set foot in America. So I wonder what the connection is for the author. Okay, he is the great grandson of Nevada mining pioneer Min Chun, who emigrated from China to San Francisco in 1865. And because it's a Once Upon a Book Club book pick, it comes with corresponding gifts. Can't wait to read this. And then for the final roll for the month of December, it's a 5. Let's go this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Summer Court. 3 Blood Rubies, a book from an author who did you wrong. And then the final prompt, so the final book pick for the month of December. The 3 Blood Rubies is another scene in the books at the Summer Court, and the High Lord of the Summer Court feels very betrayed when he finds out because he didn't know anything about this. Feyre kind of like deceived him, so that's why it's a book from an author who did you wrong. This prompt is open for interpretation. I looked at it as an author that did something that I do not agree with, and that's okay because we all have different views, different opinions, and everyone has a right to his own. But you can also look at it as an author who did you wrong in the sense that they haven't finished maybe the trilogy yet, or they wrote a book that is just too big, has too many pages. So I looked at it from the viewpoint that we have different opinions. I have to be honest, I haven't checked it like in depth, but I know that J. Kristoff has some different opinions. So this is Nevernight by J. Kristoff. It has been standing in my bookcase for a while now. I know that this author wrote about an indigenous group of people, I believe in this book or in this series. And from what I've read, he did that in the wrong way. So people have used the word racism and even say that he doesn't support the Asian community. I don't have all the facts, so I don't know how or why this has happened. But I know that it is important to support minorities, especially when you're like average white. So in this case, I choose J. Kristoff as an author who did me wrong. Plus, I always wanted to read Nevernight because I just heard a lot of good things about it. I believe this is another young adult fantasy book. It's a trilogy, and I think it is an Asian-inspired steampunk book, which is unlike anything I've ever read. It begins when a fledgling joins a school of assassins, seeking vengeance against the powers that destroyed her family. So our main character, Mia, is apprenticed to the Red Church, which is like the deadliest flock of assassins. And if she is the best among her fellow students, she'll be inducted among the Blades of the Lady of Blessed Murder. But then the past comes back to haunt her and things go wrong. It sounds really intriguing and I am excited to finally start this trilogy. And with that, I have chosen my 4 books for the month of December. Hopefully I will finish these before the end of December and can maybe squeeze in another book. I used to read like 6 or 7 books a month, but now I'm just like, how did I do that? Like how? And if you've played along, let me know what books did you pick. And that was it for the TBR game, A Court of Books. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching and let's stay in touch.